All right, Facebook fam. I am back. And yes, this is a Rhymes Media Group moment. All right, Facebook and hopefully fam. Facebook will not interrupt I am back. My feed as it has in time. And yes. I wanted to do this. This is a Rhymes Media Group moment. All right, Facebook fam. Facebook I am back. Feed as it has in time. Rhymes Media Group moment. Yes. A short little talk on. I wanted to do this. This is a Rhymes Media Group moment. All right, Facebook fam. And one of the things that we are faced with right now is Syria, and what we're hearing about when it comes to the narrative in Syria. Now, I don't know if I am insulting gnats all over the world by comparing our attention span as the American people to them. Maybe I'm insulting gnats, okay? But here's the problem that I see too many times. When all the news came out about Iraq and how the media was just totally complicit in helping the Bush administration push forth a narrative about WMDs. And we told, oh, no, we'll never fall for that again. Oh, we'll never do it. No, we'll never get. And here we are again. Here we are in 2016, hearing another narrative that is suspicious, another narrative that is not, proven when it comes to what's going on in the ground in Syria right now. Now, there are some people who would have been climbing the walls if this was the Bush administration saying these things. But because it's President Obama, but because it's the president, the cool president in the White House, we're not supposed to question the narrative. We're not supposed to question the story. But a lot of the things that we saw when it came to the official story in 2003, when it came to Iraq and WMDs. And I'm going to go to a piece that I wrote. Now, this is not something I'm coming to from some sort of new perspective. I've been writing about this for years. Those who are being accused of being the fake media right now, the fake news right now, has been writing about this for years. And our story has been proven. Our stories have panned out. It is the mainstream media's narrative that hasn't panned out. So I wrote a piece in 2013, May of 2013, called "Fool Me Twice, Shame on Me." Is latest Syrian chemical weapons claim WMDs part 2? And so what this is talking about was there was a claim made back in 2013 that the Assad government was using chemical weapons against the Syrian rebels and the Syrian people. Now, the UN looked into this. They found nothing to back this up. As a matter of fact, they said the more likely story was that the Syrian rebels, quote unquote Syrian rebels, which we now know was Al-Qaeda or, Al-Qaeda of the Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda in Iraq was involved with this. What we now call ISIS is involved in this and was involved in this. So the media was pushing forth this story because, at this time, they were the brave, noble rebels fighting against a vicious and oppressive Assad regime. And now we know that's not the story. That's not nearly the story. So what happened in 2000 and what happened back in 2003, when it came to the Bush administration? Now, in their book, Weapons of Mass Deception, The Uses of Propaganda in Bush's War on Iraq, Sheldon Rampton and John Starbuck, they highlighted and outlined many of the media missteps and deceptions that occurred in regard to Iraq that are now playing out in their analysis of Syria. The lie of association. White House officials, that's one of the tricks they use, the lie of association. White House officials used repetition and misinformation, the big lie tactic, to create the false impression that Iraq was behind the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the United States, especially in the case of the alleged meeting in Prague 5 months earlier between hijacker Mohammed Atta and Iraqi intelligence officials. Now, this is especially curious given the association of the rebels, the Syrian rebel forces, with Al Qaeda, ISIS. So this lie of association, that Syria is backed by Russia and, the Russians and Syria. And what does this do? It takes our eyes off the fact that this is a proxy war. Essentially, a proxy war for Saudi Arabia and Israel. But don't trip over the truth on your way out the door, mind you. Okay, so you have the lie of association, that lie that we see playing out in Syria right now. Media culpability. Now, this is especially important. The media collusion and the media culpability aspect of what happened in Iraq. So headline, by news show, by press conference, there was a deliberate, targeted, and forceful public relations campaign that sold the Iraqi war to the American people. And this plan was highly successful. And this is exactly what we see now. We're seeing headline after headline, news show after news show, press conference after press conference, blaming Assad for certain things that are going on inside of Syria, when most of the time, we could trace those actions back to the Syrian rebels, ISIS, Al Qaeda, whatever you want to call it. It's a potpourri of all that right now. So this is what we're working with here, ladies and gentlemen. But I thought we learned our lesson from Iraq. I thought we learned our lesson about WMDs. I thought we learned our lesson about challenging the government narrative. I thought we learned our lesson, people. Now, so what we're seeing right now is easy to see how Obama and the Bush rhetoric is now indistinguishable. It's indistinguishable. We never ask these people, okay, you say you have this, prove it. Prove it. Don't just take the story. Don't just take anybody's story. But now, organizations like, Black Agenda Report, organizations like Mid-Press News, organizations like, Democracy Now! And other people, and Democracy Now! Has, made a misstep when it came to the Syrian story as well. But I digress. But organizations now are being called puppets of Putin and fake news because anything that challenges the official narrative, don't you know, has to be fake. But the government who has lied consistently when it comes to war throughout the history of this country. This didn't just happen in Iraq. It's the most recent occurrence we have. But we saw this play out in Vietnam. We saw it play out in Korea. We saw it play out over the vast array of wars that we have been involved in. So now as President Obama is leaving office, he's thinking about his legacy. He's thinking about, what he leaves behind. And nobody wants to admit, as president, hey, I helped armed ISIS, the group that we said we're fighting against. I helped arm Al Qaeda. And that's exactly what the Obama administration and the Hillary Clinton State Department did. They armed ISIS. This is not pulling things out of the sky. This is documented. This is real. But yet, I see people out there falling for the same thing that they said they would never fall for again. I see a media that said, oh boy, we learned our lesson. That's doing the exact same thing because media, mainstream media, don't you know, works at the behest of corporate and elite interests. Haven't you figured that out by now? So the very same people that we say we're fighting against are the very same people we're arming in Syria. So this makes absolutely, positively no sense to me. That intelligent people, that so-called intelligent people, are falling for the same okie doke that they fell for back in 2003. They're falling for the same thing that they fell for back in 2003. That's where we're at right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we're at. And somehow we don't believe that President Obama isn't the government now. He is. He's the government just like Bush was the government. And we have been, as a whole, especially the Democratic Party, especially the professional left, has been lulled into this sleep, has been lulled into this, this coma by the Obama administration where you don't question anything. You just take it at its face value. You just say, okay, yeah, this is true. Why is it true? Why is it true? Now, I'm going to end this by reading what I had posted earlier. I posted something earlier in regards to this, and I want to read it as I leave you with this Rhymes Media moment. Okay? So let me find it here. Scroll down here. Go down, go down, go down. Where am I at? Where is the post? You have to excuse me. My computer's running kind of slow right now. All right. There we go. Now, you know what I find is fake news? What's coming out about Syria right now? Several years ago, those of us who are now being accused of propagating fake news, we're talking about the news corporate media's backslash in mainstream media wasn't talking about. We was talking about the news that they weren't talking about. How the U.S. government was arming ISIS. That's right. The Obama administration / Clinton State Department was doing this. We were ignored and then excoriated at the time, and now then we stand vindicated. Now, this is the time for presidents to protect and or create legacies and defeated political parties to rewrite history. So it's no coincidence that these stories are coming out about the Assad regime massacring Syrian citizens, because maybe, just maybe, we will forget about how the Western powers created the hellish situation in Syria in the first place. No, Assad will never win a Ruler of the Year award. But the U.S. government took a situation that was an internal matter and made it a proxy war for Saudi Arabia and Israel. The issue I have isn't so much that corporate news and mainstream media is doing what it has always done, working at the behest of a wealthy and powerful elite, but that a great deal of the American public is doing what they have always done, believing the lies and misinformation that history continually tells us in retrospect were smoke screens and deception. Most of the people posting things about Syria now have been paying little to no attention to Syria for the past 3 to 4 years. So when you are done playing puppet to the marionettes of the corpocracy and its mouthpiece, the mainstream media, please take the time to study this situation before typing out a hurried post or adding a link to the real fake news. Don't worry. Your secret will be safe with me. I won't tell the powers that be that you are actually doing what they fear the most, thinking. And that does it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a Rhymes Media moment, and this has been Edward Rhymes. God bless, and have a good day.